Hello world, this is Robert Edward Patterson II, aka Mr. P from the 313.
And I'm Agent Black, and this is the Pass the Bag podcast.
You know, it's not enough just for you to get the bag these days.
You gotta know how to keep the bag.
And if you want to keep the bag secure,
you gotta share the bag.
It's just,
now, kindly pass the bag.
Don't mind if I do, sir.
Indeed. So, Bobby,
break it down.
Who
sir.
are you, bro?
Yeah, again,
what do you hope to
Patterson
accomplish? Tell me what's good.
Well, first of all, I gotta thank my mother and my father for giving me this name because
Facts.
You know I've always loved that name, Robert Edward Patterson II.
Facts.
It makes me feel like I should have land and titles or something like that.
You will.
It's going down right now, and you know, Bobby Pats. That's the brand. You know, just out here bringing it to the streets, coming from the streets, and taking it worldwide. You know, this is what we're here to do.
Facts.
Yeah, we got work to do. So just putting in the work, coming from Detroit, being born in Flint, the now infamous and world famous Flint, Michigan, where I'm from.
Right.
Where, you know, lead showers happen in more ways than one. And,
right.
And being made in the city of Detroit, and now being here in lovely Shenzhen, China. Shout out to the PRC.
Facts.
It's just having work to do, uplifting people, giving people that same type of feeling that I felt, you know, back in the day when I was a child listening to Stevie Wonder or,
right.
you know, somebody else. And so, you know, we had the Bobby Pats Project.
Okay.
Right now with, of course, the immaculate, the incomparable A Black.
You know. So, yeah, man, I'm A Black, repping VA all day.
Word.
You know, 2 up, 2 down, pass the love all around.
Let's go.
You know, put it in the bag.
Yeah.
Danville to be short. I put the ill in Danville.
All right.
And, yeah, man, I just been all over. You know, I met my lovely wife here in Shenzhen. Also met my partner, my MiVa partner, Bobby Pats here. And been grinding with the music and grinding with, you know, trying to, you know, share the culture with people who never seen something that we seen before, who never got the opportunity to listen to Stevie Wonder, who never got the opportunity to hear James Brown, who never got the opportunity to hear Jay-Z, you know, to bring that to them. And that's what we do. That's what we do here. And so, first question is, what shaped you as a person, as an artist? You talked about being from Flint, and what sort of experiences bonded you to the path that you like to share?
So for me, being in Flint, like I can tell you that, like my father, who was from Arkansas, you know, my late father, he and my mother, when they were together, the house was super musical. Right. It wasn't even very musical, it was super musical.
Right.
One of the first Christmas presents that I can remember getting was a 6-string guitar for kids and a mic stand, and you know I only knew how to work the microphone and the amplifier, but didn't have anybody to give me guitar lessons, so
right.
that was over quick. You know, we had an electric organ in the home, and there was just always music. I probably, some of the first words that I probably knew were Bob Marley and Bruce Springsteen songs.
Right.
Like legitimate.
Nice.
Yeah. And so that was just a place where I grew up, and I found myself not until puberty. When puberty happened, thankfully Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music happened at the same time.
Okay.
So that,
Outkast,
yeah,
shouts to Outkast.
Absolutely, Dungeon Family, yeah,
Big Boy and
Outkast,
Dre.
most definitely. So as they were putting
fan.
ATL on the map, they helped me to you know, get some vision. Because Flint, as you know, is, even though I was going to private schools and you know, moved out of Flint by the time I was around 10, I definitely needed something. And you know, I was rough and tumble in a lot of ways growing up. You know, certain at-risk factors. My parents weren't together, so the art was always there. And you know, thankfully, it was something that I never had a problem with confidence. So I felt that I was good at it, and other people also felt that I was good at it. So it started out with hip hop. 96. After they got big, you know, when they got Pac, it didn't hurt me as much. But when they got big, after that, I took a step back and I was dancing, breaking for many years. And, you know, went through some health challenges, but now I'm back. You know, it's full circle. This is what I'm put here to do. And I have a talent for writing. And, you know, hopefully my talent for performing will equal and exceed my talent for writing. I've been at it for a long time.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. For me, I started actually, you know, I'm wearing my dashiki today because it's kind of it's my ode to where I started. I kind of started my musical journey in had an advisor in elementary school. Her name Miss Hicks. Shouts to Miss Hicks.
All right.
She used to call me Hasanti, which in like it means handsome prince in Swahili.
Nice.
So she gave me like confidence. You know, my mom believed in me. She was like, always told me, you going to college. You know, I was one of the after my uncle, I was the second person in my family to go to college for real.
Right on.
We both went to ODU. Shouts to ODU in Virginia. Old Dominion, Norfolk. Old Dominion, hell, stand up.
The Commonwealth.
Indeed, the Commonwealth. There's not too many of those, but Virginia's one. We ain't got no sports teams, but we know all about teamwork.
All right.
Shouts to UVA. Speaking of sports teams,
they did
we ain't
that.
got no pro sports teams.
They did that.
But yeah, man, I started with African dancing and playing djembe.
Yeah.
And we kind of taught ourselves. We had a little troupe.
All right.
And when I was 4, I wanted to sing in the choir, but I was too young. You had to be 5, so I had to wait a year.
Incredible.
But when I turned 5, I was in there. I was singing in the choir at my church. Shouts to SCBC, Silver Creek Baptist Church.
That's incredible.
And that's where I also started playing the drums. And man, I remember I used to always visit my uncle who went to college. He went to ODU. My uncle Dexter, shouts to him. I used to always visit him in Norfolk, and he had he worked for Ford. He studied engineering. He worked for Ford, so he had this nice Ford Probe with the sunroof. You know, this is 90s when the sunroofs was like that. You had a sunroof.
That was
he
that deal. That was that deal.
He had a CD player and a sunroof.
Yeah,
like
he
was
needed.
in there. He was in there. And so he used to play Stevie Wonder, man. And I used to listen to Sign Seal Deliver. I used to, man, on repeat. I was like, play it again, play it again, play it again. So I fell in love with just soul music. You know, my grandma used to play Betty Wright around the house cleaning up, and obviously gospel music.
Of course.
And then hip hop. I kind of got me and my friends kind of found together. It's kind of I was the first. Well, no. My big cousin Troy, who I look up to, who I love, to death. He's the reason why I love Duke. Shouts to Duke. Shouts to Zion. What up? Holla at us.
Right. Coach K.
Shouts to Coach K.
And they brought Battier through there.
Right.
Yeah.
Shouts to Jay Williams. It's a lot of Elton Brand. Let's go.
Yeah.
But yeah, reason I love Duke, but he was Wu-Tang. He was a Wu-Tang head. Right. So he put me on the Wu-Tang when I was a kid. I remember looking at the cover of the 36 Chambers with the Mike mask, the tape cover.
That's an institution right there.
I used to
That's
just stare at it.
Wu-Tang is an institution.
It used to just like mesmerize me, just the cover art.
Yeah.
Like the music, and hearing the Kung Fu sound, the whoa.
Yeah.
And hearing that in the music was like, I love Kung Fu, love martial arts. I think a lot of it came from Wu-Tang, Ninja Turtles and Wu-Tang. And so that's where the music, hip hop kind of like, other people had, Big and Pac, and that was kind of their first, hip hop influences. But for me, it was like, Wu-Tang, Rakim were like my first kind of like hip hop pioneers as far as like the sounds I heard my cousin listening to. And so, and being in Danville, actually, we're in the South. So like you would think, he would have a different influence, but being in Virginia, we kind of in the Middle East. So you get a little bit of the North and the South. It's kind of where it collides.
Yeah, y'all.
And that's why you hear that in the Missy Elliott sound and the Timberland sound and the Pharrell sound. They got their own style because Virginia has always been like that. It's kind of like Detroit. It's like it has its own style because it's like.
Yeah, Detroit is one of those places definitely
influence.
right between the East Coast and the West Coast.
On the lakes, right? On the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
And you got Chicago there, you got, St. Louis to the south, you got, Cleveland to the east, and,
right.
You got the New York cast that would come through.
Big shout out to T-Dot,
right.
Toronto is
T-Dot up in the, well, actually, I don't know if it's north or south, I don't know.
No, well, Detroit is equidistant between Chicago and Toronto.
Right.
Yeah, it takes 4 hours to get to either one in either direction, and that's part of one of the beautiful things about it.
Right.
Cleveland is just about a half an hour less. You got Cleveland in 3.5 hours. If you want to go straight west, you got Chicago in 4 hours. If you want to go straight east, then you get to Toronto in 4 hours.
Right. So shouts to the Midwest right now. Yeah. Midwest, VA. Yeah. So speaking of Midwest VA, right. Michigan VA.
All right.
What's this MiVa stuff I be hearing about? What's that MiVa thing we talking about?
I mean, para nuestra familia habla en español,
See?
Right?
See?
Like, as far as, MiVa, that's like, you could think about it like MiVa, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's my go.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely our term. When it comes to being an artist, we all know how important it is for us to represent.
Facts.
And, old Dirty taught us, may he rest in peace, that keeping it real is important. Mm-hmm. And there's certain things that if you don't come straight with them, it's going to get found out about you anyway, Right. So you may as well just embrace those things and be proud of those things. And I know that there's a little bit of a chip in terms of Michigan, and in terms of especially what we call contemporary music. Most people think about what Motown, or they think about the past. Right. Yeah, there's been Marshall, the homie Big Sean, but
Royce.
Yeah, it's more like a kind of an underdog type thing.
Always.
Coming out of Michigan, especially in the last 40 years or so, right?
For sure.
Since the Motown thing went out, it really hasn't been that kind of a movement or that kind of a machine. So, for me, for what I'm bringing for MiVa, I'm here to bring the movement back,
Right.
Out here, continuing to earn the stripes.
Facts.
Bring the king of the lakes back to the kingdom and unify the squad, unify all the clans.
Indeed.
And break it down like that.
Indeed.
And if I could say one other thing, is just that location.
You can say whatever you want, man. This is our pod.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? This is pass the bag. Give me some. We passing the bag. Let's go.
When it comes to that location, like for me, I think that there's a certain language around Michigan things and Detroit things is, it's absent except for to people who are from that area. And one of the things that I've said is this, almost like that peninsula, that freshwater peninsula, especially Detroit, it's on some contemporary pirate type stuff, especially the Straits is located in such a strategic place. So the people who come up there, because they have this strategic location resource thing happening,
right,
it makes the way that they approach art very strategic and resourceful as well. So you can go to Michigan, especially Detroit, and you can find all of these artists who they're so independent. Their spirit is that they don't need anybody or anything or anyone else.
I mean, you just think about the sounds that came out of Detroit by itself. You got the Motown sound, you got techno.
My goodness.
I mean, you can think of like one of, if not the most influential rapper of the past, decade, 20 years is from Detroit.
Absolutely. And Jay Dilla.
Jay Dilla sound.
Right.
I mean, his sound revolutionized hip hop sound for a while.
Right.
I mean, he brought back that jazzy, like soulful hip hop sound that was missing for a while.
Super organic.
Right, super organic. I mean,
took it all the way back to the so speaking of super organic and having the roots of the African experience, be part of how you got into the vibe and on the path. When you talk about the MiVa situation, how you feeling about it?
Well, shouts to the Bamaliki tribes, the Bamaleke tribes of Cameroon. Those are my ancestors right there. Right. Shouts to African ancestry, DNA, swabbing my mouth and stuff just to find out.
Yeah, they need to send a check.
Yeah, they need a check. We need to
send that check.
You need to be in the
ancestry.
bag. Come in the bag. You need to be in the bag. So, man, like VA, like I was saying earlier, it's the Middle East, man, and I mean that in a lot of ways. Like strategically, you think about Virginia being like one of the original colonies, being one of the places that America started, being also one of those places where if you're going north or you're going south, you got to go through Virginia, and especially if you take into account DC and everything that stands for, people in DC, they separate it because I understand. DC is its own monster. It's its own district. Right. So, but I mean, it definitely influences Virginia culture, and Virginia culture influences DC. So, I mean, you can put the DMV all there together. I like to, I'm all about unity, not separation. That's what we are. With the bag, you got to share the bag.
You got to share that bag.
If you want to keep that bag, you got to share that bag.
Yeah, passing that bag. So that's how you keep things unified.
It's all about being in the bag. It's about everybody being in the bag. There's room in the bag for everybody.
That's right.
And Virginia is that way, man. Like we've always like loved and accepted other cultures and art. You think about the biggest naval base in the world is in Norfolk, Virginia.
Norfolk.
So I mean, it's a very diverse area. 7 cities. It's like people from all over. And the school I went to, Old Dominion, is like one of the most diverse schools in Virginia. We have a lot of our schools. I mean, a lot of students there were international.
All right.
So I had a lot of like African friends in college, and they put me on the different foods, dances, music.
Word.
That kind of influences what I do now because like, my wife's Spanish. Shouts to my wife.
Hey.
Big ups to my wife.
Hey.
I love you, babe. You know what I'm saying? Ladies, I'm married. But shoot some emails. We can talk about it. If my wife likes you, then maybe we can talk about it.
Hey, that's passing the bag right
that's
there.
That's passing the bag.
That's passing the bag right there.
So, yeah, my wife's Spanish. So I've been working on my Spanish. I got an opportunity to live in Spain for a little while and fall in love with Latin music, reggaeton, and like Latin trap and Latin hip hop.
Yeah.
With Spanish speaking, Latin interchangeable terms. Depends on who you're talking to.
We're talking to each other right now.
But
yeah,
man, and the Afro beat, man, I've really been into that, and hip hop forever, and soul forever, and funk forever. So I think Virginia's all about that. Virginia's all about that, bringing that diversity of sound, and you can hear it in the artists, you can hear it in Clips, Mad Skills, you can hear it in D'Angelo, you can hear it in Missy Elliott, you can hear it in Timbaland. You can hear it in all the big artists from Virginia. So we want to keep that going with MiVa. That's the sound we want to create.
So everybody that's listening to what we're saying about this union right here, this MiVa thing, I think that when we talk about collaborative history of people who are coming from different places, like there might be a couple of different people who come to mind, like 50 and got together with Marshall, right? And they did that thing, or even the Marshall Dre type of thing. But I don't think that this, from what I know, the Michigan Virginia thing specifically on the art tip is unique, right? It's not something that's been done before.
I feel like
if we want to count Aaliyah, maybe Aaliyah.
Yeah,
and
Aaliyah
Timbaland.
for sure. Aaliyah for sure. Aaliyah's Detroit all day, right?
Yeah, Detroit, Timbaland.
Yeah, that's it. But that's
a wonderful legacy to continue.
I was about to say that's the legacy we want to continue.
That's the direction we want to head in. Rest in peace.
She rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in power for sure.
Rest in power, because that's the legacy we want to recreate.
Absolutely.
That's what we want to be about.
Absolutely.
The things that Aaliyah did with music and just her style and her songwriting, her approach.
Yeah, she did that.
And she took it very seriously, and the performance was also serious.
She did
her
that.
ass off.
She did that. Yeah.
So that's the type of show we want to put together.
Shout out to all the survivors too, because clearly, we even though we weren't there, right? We have to say that at some point that we highly suspect, even though a part of it was public, that spirit that Aaliyah was able to bring to that union with Missy and Timbaland was also the spirit of somebody who a young woman who has survived something, who been through a speed bump or a roadblock, whatever it is that we want to call it, and she was certainly showing lots of other people who had been through those sorts of situations how to be able to not just rebound, but to go coast to coast and throw it down.
And become like a
she
number
was
one.
Throwing it down.
Throwing out number one.
She definitely would have been the princess if with a trajectory. Absolutely.
Forever. Nobody can take her place.
Stand corrected.
But speaking of surviving,
all right.
You have something that's very near and dear to your heart that is very important that you want to bring awareness to. Because this whole pod, the Pass the Bag pod, is all about culture. It's all about health.
That's right.
It's all about building up your mind, your body, and your spirit.
That's right.
That's what the whole reason we're here.
That's right.
We don't want to just be here, just be glorifying ourselves, because it ain't about us. Life's not about us.
Definitely.
It's about us, the collective us.
That's right.
How can we all improve? How can we all get better?
Definitely.
So something that you want to bring light to is the G6PD. Tell the people a little bit about it, and tell the people about your experiences and how things have been for you.
Absolutely. So something that I was born with is an anti-malarial mutation that's in the same family of mutations for blood cells as sickle cell,
which runs in my family, by the way.
Okay, right on. So then it's hitting home. Right. So G6PD deficiency is an enzyme deficiency where the red blood cells will pretty much break down. Not pretty much. The red blood cells break down under what we call oxidative stress. And so for all you individuals out there who are not enthusiasts about chemistry or food science, there's different things that oxidative stress comes from. A lot of it comes from what you eat or what you drink.
Right.
And not pretty much.
Anything that goes in your body,
anything that's going in your body. So smoking is an oxidative stress factor for red blood cells.
Right.
Carbonation, the artificial sugars, a lot of the things that
air quality.
A lot of things, absolutely. Stress, negative stress. So
always.
Infection even. So getting a cold or something. So what happens is similar to when people have these sickle cell anemia episodes, people who have G6PD deficiency will unfortunately have these episodes that usually include chronic fatigue, jaundice, susceptibility to certain infections, and even in the worst cases, and I myself, unfortunately, like when I was 17 years old, I had a full-blown cardiac arrest at 17 years old.
Wow.
I was playing basketball, full-court basketball, playing hard like young people do, and at the time I had so many red blood cells in my body that were broken down and sending them through my heart at such a quick rate that my heart had a malfunction, and I was on my back in the middle of the gym. And that's a whole. We'll get into the rest of that story at another time. But so G6PD deficiency is a thing that's not the most common, but it's common enough. It is the most common enzyme deficiency of all humans on the planet, affecting about 400 million people, or 7% of the current population. And it's something that we don't talk about enough, especially because those mutations are sub-Saharan African majority, and also what we call the Middle East variant in terms of the majority variants. And so in the United States, it's suspected that up to 10% of diasporatic individuals could be suffering from G6PD deficiency.
Diasporatic individuals.
Yeah, you know how we do.
The bag.
And not even know it. So that's one of the things that I'll be pushing on the platform as far as from the health angle, because I have thankfully survived through really hard times as a result of me not understanding this thing that I was born with. And there's a lot of brothers and sisters out there that, if I can only help one person, then I know that it's worth it. But chances are I'm going to be helping out thousands.
So how did you know that you had G6PD?
So at the time when I was in the armed services, I had my blood tested like everybody who was going through there. And one day,
shouts to all the vets. Shouts
big
to
shout,
big all the armed services.
Big shouts.
All our heroes out there.
Yeah, we doing
saving
that.
lives.
We doing that. We had this testing. We're out training, running around in the gym, and as we're running around in the gym, one of the officers comes and calls. He wasn't an officer, but the guy who was pushing our division comes and he calls, of 88 people who were in our particular company, calls 3 of us over. Myself, another guy from Texas, and another dude. I'm not sure where he was from. I think he might have been born in China, right? So the 3 of us, we go over there, and they give us these red dog tag clips to go with our 2 silver dog tag clips. And we're the only 3 people in the company who are given these dog tags. And my dog tag and the Chinese cat, his name was Chun, said G6PD on it. And the other guy from Texas, his said sickle cell on it.
Oh, wow.
But we didn't really get a thorough explanation. Shaking my fist at, people there, right? For just handing out dog tags is not enough, right? I was not educated on how it was that I was supposed to be managing the situation, and I wouldn't find out until 10 years later.
So how do you manage the situation now?
It's
what type of foods do you have to avoid eating? What type of
no beans or legumes at all? Hummus. Oh my God, and I used to live off of hummus.
Man.
Yeah, that was part of what the problem was. I didn't know, but hummus is just so delicious. Hummus, anything that's a bean or a legume, peanut butter, soy, those 3 were in heavy rotation for me. I ate a lot of tofu. I was eating just, tons of making myself black bean quesadillas and just going in with the beans. I cannot have any beans or any legumes at all. No lentils, no chickpeas, some of the most delicious stuff ever. I'm getting hungry right now just thinking about it. Is off the block. And the other things are the things that people tell you that you should avoid anyway. High fructose corn syrup, bleached salt, bleached.
But maybe some of our audience doesn't know that. So like these things that maybe we both know that we should avoid. There might be people, because that for a long time in my life, like I ate whatever. And like I could see that it was making me overweight because I was overweight. Right. But I didn't understand the science of how it made me overweight. I didn't understand why. Because like we use high fructose. So we're American, right? We have high fructose corn syrup because we have so much corn in America, right? It's an easy substitution. It's like sugar is not as natural. It's like, oh yeah, we just take this corn, do some stuff with it, add some chemicals, blah blah blah. Bam, we got sugar. We save money. Yeah. Versus like importing sugar from sugar cane from other countries, right? We got all this corn.
In Michigan, they have a subsidy that they give farmers. We have the best sugar beet soil in the country up in Michigan,
Right.
Just north of Detroit, in the whole country. I mean, you know, it's a big country, and they pay those farmers subsidies not to grow those sugar beets.
Why? Because of high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, because of the politics of economics in the states. You know, right? That's
Which
how it goes down.
It's another topic.
And that affects our health. You know, so yeah, that's how we do, Black.
So there's certain things. Getting back to G6PD,
right?
You know, we hit tangents for a while, and that's
right.
gonna be natural to us. That's just what we're gonna do. That's what happens when you're in the bag.
We on it.
All right. So
yeah, we on it.
What about drinks? Is there anything you can't drink?
I mean, alcohol, you know.
Really? No alcohol?
Absolutely, because alcohol is a crazy pro-oxidant.
Right.
Yeah, alcohol is like really, you already know, it's not water soluble.
Right.
It's crazy for the liver and the kidneys.
So it sounds like anything that your liver will have problems with, or insulin will have problems with.
One third of the liver's metabolic function is supported by this particular metabolic pathway, which is called the pentose phosphate pathway, but that's where G6PD goes through that pathway.
Right.
So, for example, last time that I had my liver sort of investigated through the quantum resonance, the liver stuff showed that my liver is a little bit scarred, maybe like, you know, a lightweight alcoholic person or something like that. And I don't drink. I haven't drank in years. No, that was a couple months ago, and I've been working out, doing a lot of stuff, you know, even when had some liver detox massage therapy. So it could be the case that some of that scarring or whatever has gone away. But yeah, liver health is and G6PD are super duper related. So I'm doing my best to stay healthy, and hopefully I'll get to be a 108-year-old guy dying in his sleep instead of somebody who, you know, heaven forbid, croaking because my liver's giving out, right?
So we definitely gonna come back to that, and we definitely gonna speak about health issues all the time, and we definitely gonna continue to bring awareness to G6PD and sickle cell, things that affect people, diasporatic individuals, a little bit more than other individuals. But this pod is not just for diasporatic individuals. This is for everybody. You know what I'm saying? We're all about culture. We're all about health for all people.
That's right.
So we have the luxury, are blessed to live overseas and to live in an environment that's completely different than where we were brought up. You know what I'm saying? You being from Michigan, you being from VA.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? We live here in Shenzhen. So let's talk about a little bit about how living overseas has affected our relationship to like identity politics, especially maybe being a diasporatic individual. And what were you able to get as a globe-trotter that you were unable to get living in Michigan?
Well, first thing I got to say for everybody who's listening to the podcast who is not in Shenzhen,
right?
This is one of those places that if they haven't heard about it or they don't understand the gravity of this thing,
right,
it's absolutely a wonder. If being in Shenzhen is like sitting on, I've never been to Lake Victoria in Africa, right? But I know it's world famous, you know, I heard a lot about it, right? Now, I haven't even been to the Grand Canyon in Arizona, but I know that it's world famous and I've heard a lot about it. Right. I have been to Niagara Falls, and being here in Shenzhen and seeing these natural wonders of 20 million people in a place that, you know, houses that many people that is, you know, just a few years older than I am. Right? Mega city. Just neighborhoods that you can, you know, sprawling.
You can look out your window and see 100,000 people.
Yeah.
Literally look out your, and not like physically see them, but you can see that 100,000 people live in this one area. You know what I'm saying?
You might be able to do that at 6 a.m.
Right. And we gonna take the pod like out. It's not just gonna be in this one room. So you're gonna be able to see, we're gonna show you a lot of like the beauty of what Shenzhen is.
Most definitely.
And it's been crazy. I've been here 7 years in this particular city.
All right.
You've been in other places in China, and we both visited other places and been all around. So tell me, what is it? What is the Shenzhen spirit? Like, what does it feel like to be here? Like, why is it important to be here?
So personally for me, the Shenzhen spirit is really defined by if you can stay focused,
right,
in Shenzhen. And you can do so much. As China is one of those places where I know I came here to do things that I knew that the first time that I went to China, I got these things done, went back to the States and those things weren't getting done, so let's go ahead and let's run it back. Right. So when it came time to double down, okay, am I going to go back to this, small marketplace, or am I going to go to this larger place? I came to Shenzhen simply because resources. I mean, it's funny to say something like unlimited resources,
right?
Because where we come from, scarcity is this thing,
right?
And also the PRC, for those people who are listening to us in the States or in other places, is going to have this reputation for people who feel like, oh, there's limitations that are set. But for real, it feels limitless.
Right.
At any given point in time, if you're looking for one community that's going to service your needs, you have to pick, because there's just so many resources here. For me, when I look at Watchung Bay, that experience, which is where I landed, the world famous Watchung Bay is where it's like the Silicon Valley of hardware.
Right.
Tech market. It is the absolute tech. I mean, we're talking about these massive giants, Alibaba, send us those checks, Alibaba, WeChat, all of these places, Tencent, Huawei. When I came here and I looked and I saw all of the opportunity, I'm still, it's beyond my imagination. It's beyond my expectations. So for me, being here is about that. It's about saying, okay, if I'm a resourceful individual and I'm someplace like where I was in Detroit, which at the time was going through a transition, and my resourcefulness wasn't being put to the type of teamwork that it needed to be put to, and I needed that best supporting character for the movie that is my life. Shenzhen is always bringing the A game in the method for the best supporting character, because there's so much support out here. It's 20 million people, so many communities.
Yeah, man, and that's the thing that I want to speak on about the spirit of Shenzhen, is that if the community doesn't exist, you can create it. Because you'll find people who are interested. You know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
Like MiVa, for example, I always wanted to create a record label. And I have in other ways back home, but not as serious as I want to be with this project and that we're being. And so, being able to link with you and being able to, like, the podcast was just a dream. And now it's a reality.
Word.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many things. But China, you know what I'm saying? This was a show that I always wanted to create. And now it's a reality. And now people know about it. Like, you can walk around and you can ask somebody in the city about it, and they might know, like, there's this project. And being and finding love, and my wife, she's the woman that I always wanted. It's just like the things that I kind of always wanted. And I'm not trying to, paint this like blah, blah, blah. Like, it's you live in a foreign country. It is not easy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? People here do not always speak English.
Right.
Like, you have to adapt.
Right.
You have to adjust.
Right.
That is essential to moving anywhere that's not home.
Definitely.
When I moved to Durham, I had the same issues. When you were in Hawaii, you had the same issue. Shots to Hawaii.
Hey yo.
So, like, when you change environments, you have to adjust. And China's no different. I moved to Spain, same concept. I speak Spanish. Say hablo español.
Right.
Sí, mi hermanos.
Get it.
So you gotta find ways to adjust, and that, I feel like, you build a discipline and you build a hunger here that you won't maybe not get in other places.
One of the sweetest things about what it is that you're saying that I feel like is, you got to show people, you can't tell them.
Right.
Is this part right here. So if it's 20 million people,
right,
and let's say we're in a place where there's 1 million people,
right,
and we want to create a podcast,
right,
then what percentage of the population of the place that's 1 million people do we have to touch in order for our podcast to have a respectable listener, base, or even just to have so many people who are trying it out, even just to get the foot traffic.
Right.
If the place is only 1 million people, and bigger isn't always better, right? But if a place is only 1 million people, then it's more difficult.
Right.
You got other markets, New York,
so much competition.
LA, so much competition. Everybody's doing it, right? And when you come here, and you have these 20 million people, Shenzhen is an international city, for those of you who don't know, right across the water from Hong Kong.
Yep.
It's going
right down the way from Guangzhou.
And when you say, oh, we're going to put together this podcast, and there's 20 million people here, a stone's throw away from Guangzhou, which is another, 16 million folks.
Facts. Maybe
Hong
more.
Kong, right across the water.
That's
and then we say,
like
we're going to put this podcast together. Then the listenership, it's one of those types of things where sometimes it's the perfect storm.
Right.
And, hey, maybe not everybody wants to do this, but this is what we're doing. And, in the future where we get where we're going, the fact that we did this is going to be a big part of why we end up where we end up at. Right. So I know where I'm aiming. I know where you aiming.
Facts, bro. And so we didn't really speak a lot about the identity politics? How does it feel? Like, how do you identify, or what does that even mean to you anymore now that you're, no longer in America?
Well, I can really appreciate that question, because there's such an ongoing narrative. You and I, we go back to the States, we're gonna be black, and there's gonna be a certain amount of what makes us black that maybe it'll be subjective. For the most part, there's a large part of it that is objective, because that identity is a political identity. It comes to you from the state. So beings out of the jurisdiction of the state.
Right. For the most part. right. In terms of especially the identity politics, it's real interesting to just take that moment to be more human. Right.
And to have those factors where the identity, you're able to look at yourself in the mirror. You kind of got less noise. Because I don't have, big shout out to anybody out there who's representing any movement. It could be Black Lives Matter. It could be, some LGBTQ type thing. It could be, somebody who's a right-wing, NRA individual.
Right.
But in terms of having those types of things always being pushed on you or always being broadcast at you from so many different places, out here, it's what do you want to listen to?
Right.
Who's talking what you want to listen to?
Right.
See, because all of the noise out here sound the same.
Right. It's all noise.
Yeah, it's all noise. It's all just static,
all
right? So one person is telling
it's like, what are you feeding into? What are you tuning into?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because you got to choose a lot harder out here. It's not like you just have so many channels and they're all blasting the same thing.
And you got to go for it. You got to go for it here, because there is so much static. There is so much noise that can come between it, and some of it is distraction.
A good amount of it.
Again, it's a city with 20 million people. But it's only 40 years old. Everything is so new, fresh.
Can you imagine that?
Always something to do, always somewhere to go, always a new bar to hit, always a new club.
Right.
Grand opening, grand closing.
Grand closing.
Man,
Talk about growing 2 million people a year for 40 years.
Right. So what else? There's so much. There's so many. So that's a big thing. And
let me ask you.
Okay.
in terms of what it is, because I think that there's so many similarities and not everything is the same.
Yeah, I think I've hyper identify now, because so much of what I'm about is culture.
Okay.
So much of the opportunities that I get here is because of culture.
All right.
There are plenty of people that sing here, but they don't sing Stevie Wonder.
Exactly.
They don't sing James Brown.
Exactly.
There's plenty of rappers here, but do they rap Wu-Tang? Do they rap Jay-Z? You know what I'm saying? So, as an artist, as a performer, what I bring is culture. Right. So, I chose the name A Black DJ. Again, my name is Adrian Blackstock. I like to drop the stock, because we ain't stock. You know what I'm saying? We just black.
All right. Word.
But we're more than black. Blackness can be whatever you want it to be. Any name, any identity is what you make it at the end of the day. So when I was kind of given / chose the name A Black DJ, it's because, a lot of times, you get a job offer and it's like, hey, we need a black DJ. And I was like, okay, I'm going to flip that. I'm going to use it. You take something that could be negative and it's like, no, I'm going to flip it.
That's
and
brilliant right there.
I'm going to take it and I'm going to use it. So now you see, it's
I hope y'all listening to that.
A Black album.
I hope y'all listening to that. That's
A Black album,
that's
A
brilliant.
Black DJ, because, what does it mean? What does it mean to you? Because what it means to you and what it means to me is always going to be different.
With you being an artist and myself being an artist and us having to make those decisions about what to call ourselves, like Mr. P was easy for me because, when I was working with the kids, it's difficult for them to, I'm going to end up being Mr. Peterson, Mr. Peabody, and all the rest of this, right? So, telling them, call me Mr. P was easy. And also, when I was back in the day in the Navy, they just used to call me P, right? So this was sort of like, kind of thinking to myself, well, when were those moments where I had some name that was given to me that was like real organic. And you know, everybody knew me, you know, Mr. P, but when it came to the rebranding and saying to myself, okay, you know, what am I gonna go with? You know, Bobby Pats. Just thinking about the way guys in the streets back home do these things. You know, if your name is Robert, all the Roberts in my family, that's how I ended up being the second, because there's already 3 Roberts out there. Between my grandfather and my father, my uncle was junior already, right? So another Robert coming in, now I gotta rock the deuce.
Right.
And when it came time to say, okay, you know, identity politics, well, what you gonna call yourself? It just made me think about that kind of shorthand.
Right.
Like, okay, you know, Bob Pats, right? You know, like that's how it is.
Right.
And listening to you talk about A Black, I never even took a second to think about how being over here made it easier for me to just go on ahead and say, okay, I'm gonna call myself Bobby Pats.
All right, so we got a few more minutes, you know what I'm saying? This is basically the intro pod, you know, getting you guys accustomed, you guys, gals, you know,
men, women, children,
boys and
Manny
girls.
Fresh say, he said ducks,
chickens.
Manny Fresh is
Manny be on it.
Yeah,
Manny be on
yeah.
it. Shouts to Manny Fresh though.
Word.
Shouts to like all the Cash Money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but shouts to New Orleans. You know what I'm saying? Shouts to Tim. You know, big ups Tim. Tim, you know who you are. But yeah, man. So it was so much to talk about, and we only got but so much time. So what do you notice that you haven't really seen here, that you haven't seen anywhere else in the world? And what do you feel is important to point people out to about Shenzhen, some more about your place and your experience here?
Possibilities.
Right.
2 million people a year growth. You know, I might have messed that number up, right? Shenzhen is 40 years old. It's 20 million people. So 500,000 people a year.
500,000 people.
Yeah. Five.
We all about the language arts here.
Oh yeah,
math.
Pass the bag, pass the math. Yeah,
pass the math.
Yeah, we got to do that.
We got to share the math.
That was something that it's wild. Like this possibility, this world of possibilities, and you know, first and foremost, for my brand, I'm all about the innovation, the imagination, the quality of life, and the unification, so that people can get back to humanizing, right? Because we come from that space where people are stripped of their humanity. That's part of how the vehicle works. Is, you know, you can't. If you ever did sex work, you know, now you got to be a whore for the rest of your life. If you were ever convicted of a crime, you got to be a criminal for the rest of your life. And so possibilities become limited for individuals through systems of marginalization, and there's all types of systems of marginalization. Not just to say that they exist only in the States. There are systems that exist here. There'll always be systems that exist everywhere.
Nah, there's no systems that exist here. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, this is what I do know. This is what I do know. I know that when we talk about possibilities, for people to be able to come to Shenzhen and be able to see, like, oh my Lord, there's, I mean, you know, who do I want to be my friend? If everybody who got your WeChat, if you took everybody's WeChat, you run out of space in the first 2 weeks.
Right.
I had hundreds and hundreds of WeChat contacts, actual human resources when I first came here within months. Right. And when I first came here, I wasn't doing very well. Right. So if I'm a tramp, if I'm down to my last dollar and going through hard times, you know, almost homeless, which I was when I first got here to Shenzhen. We'll talk about that on another podcast. But if I can be in such a lowly condition, and have such a wealth of human resources, and there's barely any resources greater than human resources.
Facts.
This is what people need to know about Shenzhen.
Right.
Like that was me at a time. It was a difficult time. Was it the most difficult time I've ever been through in life? No, nowhere near it. But it was a hard time. And during that hard time, I mean, there was just so many people who was just like people, and that's wonderful, because where there's where 3 or more gather, there's all types of possibilities.
Facts. Love how you threw that in there.
Word.
Yeah, man. Shenzhen is so amazing in the sense that, you know, before I came here, you know, I wasn't making music. You know, like
what was you doing?
I was getting my master's in social work.
Okay.
Shout out to all the counselors.
Shout out to all the social workers.
Social workers. Shout out to all the intensive in-home counselors. That was my old job.
Yeah.
Working with youth and families, working with children who have behavioral disorders, attention deficit.
That's right.
Shout out to anybody dealing with any.
It's the good fight right there.
Any stuff like that. Behavior disorders, attention deficit,
depression,
which is thing that I battle with that we're gonna talk about more on the pod.
All right.
I would say my depression is mild compared to other people, but it doesn't mean it's not real.
That's right.
And so coming to Shenzhen, you know, man, I was overweight. I had never had a 6-pack before.
Okay.
And I've got it and lost it and got it again since I've been here, 6 years. So there's an opportunity to be the person that you really want to be.
Yeah.
You know, I always want to be a musician. I always wanted to be an artist. I always wanted to have a 6-pack.
Right.
You know, I wanted a beautiful wife. I wanted to create musical opportunities for myself and others. I wanted to help people. And I've been able to do all of that since I've been here. And that for me is bigger than damn near anything.
Shenzhen got a big bag of tricks. You can pull all type of stuff up out of there.
Bag of tricks. You know what I'm saying? So next week, you know, keep tuning in to the Pass the Bag pod.
Pass the bag, baby. PTB.
PTB. Because it's not enough just to get the bag.
Oh, yeah. You got to keep the bag.
And if you want to secure the bag,
you got to share the bag.
Now kindly pass the bag. We out.